So, really warm welcome to the Serpent Path of Pleasure. So, to orient you a little, I've prepared a beautiful slideshow with which I will speak about the Serpent Path of Pleasure, how it came about snake medicine, and how it all relates to us as facilitators. And there will be a little exercise as well and some space to ask questions. Yeah.
Right.
So I love to begin always with a little arriving in the body.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. Up for that. All right. So let yourself settle, taking a few breaths. Feeling with each out breath is dropping down into gravity, feeling held and supported. If you like, put a hand somewhere on your body, a place that feels comfortable, comforting, connecting. Coming into presence, kind of gathering in from however this day has been, this week, and what's to come. And just noticing what's present in your body, what's in your emotions. Yeah, and then maybe follow that thread back to when you first heard about the Serpent Path of Pleasure, what intrigued you, why you made space to come and hear what your curiosity is. And even in the title, there are two parts. There's the Serpent Path, so everything to do with snake medicine, and then pleasure. Yeah, and then it's complete with a minute or so just giving yourself something that feels good, whatever that is in the body. Maybe it's a squeeze, some shaking, some stroking. Maybe you noticed something that's a little tense. So, welcome again. Yeah, I wonder whether you like to say a little bit why you're here. What intrigued you about the Serpent Path of Pleasure, or what does it spark? It comes up.
I can that be because talk to you a little bit about this before South America. The shaman Vicky Noble, she's an American shaman. She's very connected with South America. And I've just recently connected with the those incredible Egyptian headdresses, the golden sun.
Yes.
So
And the
and
cobra,
it sits with so it
the
sits
oreos. Yeah.
interchangeably. And actually, if you look at the headdresses generally, it's kind of fascinating, really, like huge. And the pleasure is it's still sparking at that. I've just had quite an amusing conversation with somebody about if your workplace had an Olympic event, what would it be? So, frowning, squinting, being constipated. So that was kind of an interesting take on the difference, the contrast to pleasure, and how, because you said it in your I read your email the other day about being embodied, fully embodied this year. You mentioned um, how one does pleasure, in a day, taking it into daily activities where it feels essentially illegal, and you're expected to be frowning and squinting and doing business in a kind of mechanistic way. So yeah, that's it.
That becomes really radical, right?
It
To
becomes
yeah,
very radical. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Thank you. Oreos, you will see some in the slideshow as
What did
well.
you call it?
Ureos. It's the combination of the cobra with the sun on the Egyptian pharaohs
I found
and and goddesses as well. Yeah, Hathor.
Hathor. So
Yeah.
I found Hathor as
Mm,
having that kind of, yeah.
yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. Cool. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. So yeah, this has been quite a serpentine path in its own right for me to speak on the serpent path of pleasure. Because as you know, I've been immersed in what we can learn from the snakes for, yeah, about 10 years through living with my snakes and through, yeah, learning and studying the symbolism of the great serpents. And I've also worked in conscious sexuality as a sex coach and then sometime as a sexological body worker. And so I really wanted to hone in more on what, yeah, specifically what the serpent can teach us on pleasure and eros, really in the widest sense. So sexuality is one part, but I think eros is much, much bigger. It's really our life force energy. And yeah, how alive can we be in the world, be in our bodies, show up in the world? And I feel there are so many teachings that come in through the serpent around embodiment, instinct, the, just the way um, they bask, that pleasure, and yeah, and then I've been feeling into, well, how are we learning to be in the world as guides, facilitators, and space holders. And I think we live in a culture where that teaches us that, yeah, we lead through pressure or performance and productivity, and we're expected to, um, yeah, run on a schedule that's quite linear, that doesn't take into account that we're cyclical beings as well. So I wanted to make this very specifically for space holders. And then this really became clear that for me, this is the entryway into my bigger program, the bigger Serpent Mystery School, which is for women, non-binary and genderqueer facilitators and space holders, um, who really want to live in their lives and in their bodies the medicine they teach. Because very often there are gaps, right? I don't know anyone who hasn't gaps between the way they can show up brilliantly, often with the medicine they teach in the world, whether that's around embodiment or pleasure or self-worth, empowerment, money, relationships. And what does it look like in our own lives? And so I'm really, really passionate about creating spaces where we can tend to these gaps, because I feel it's a bit like, um, the quote of Leonard Cohen's quote: "There's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in." Or,
Yeah.
or Rumi's, the wound is where the light enters. And also the kintsugi, the Japanese art of mending that which is cracked or broken with gold. I feel when I've been feeling into these places, where are the gaps in me, in my life, in between what I teach and my life. Often they are around embodiments and pleasure, because it's a lifelong journey for me, has been, to feel more embodied and to, allow more pleasure. And yeah, so I feel in order to tend to these gaps, we really need to bring compassion and love and community as well too, because I feel that a lot of shame can sit there. So that's a little bit of an overview of how how Serpent's been weaving with me, and also been calling me to not just create like a one-off course again, but to create a container that's really allows us to bridge these gaps and really become more fully alive and aligned and in tune with what we're teaching. So yeah, so I'd love to share a slideshow with you and speak with it just about all these aspects, how I feel Serpent can support us in our leadership. So let me share with you. Can you see it working?
Yes. Thank
Great. So, already about snake medicine, which is to say it's really what we can learn from the actual snakes and from the symbolism of the great serpent. And I feel it's really a path when we connect with the serpent, it's a path that can support us in all these really powerful and significant areas of our lives: embodiment, sensuality, sexuality, creativity, how to live more cyclically and in tune, and leadership. And serpent really invites us to tap into our natural sensuality and sexuality and power. And of course, that's really relevant for us as space holders. So everything starts in the body and ends in the body. This is how we come into the world as embodied being, and then a lot of things happen. But ultimately, to really experience the world and to meet the world in our fullness, we need to be at home in our bodies as much as we can.
Mm.
And so I feel also leadership starts really in the body. It doesn't start in the head. However much we learn and however much knowledge we might want to convey. And yeah, I feel snakes teaches this really natural sensuality, this opening to the senses, and this belly to the ground. Most snakes really move close to the earth, and if you think of it, we are only having our two soles of the feet on the earth, whereas snake really has the whole of its body sensing, and also sensing with from the top with all the scales. So there's something about us to remember our bellies, our connection with the earth. And of course, in order for us to guide well, to lead well, we really need to find ways to regulate our nervous system and to stay present. You know, with the tools we can learn, whether that's breath or earthing or being really connected. And I think we've probably all met facilitators where we feel, here's a person who's really in their body and grounded, and the difference to listen to someone who's, yeah, quite disembodied. You know, when I was studying, I so depended on people who I felt were grounded because they really held my attention. And so when it comes to sensuality, I feel we can learn really so much. So snakes really operate with opening all of their senses. They're super sensitive. They listen through bones in their, instead of, open ears. But like I mentioned, the whole of their body system is geared towards great sensitivity. They taste with their tongue, they smell with their tongue. And so I feel there's an invitation to find our very own ways of opening our senses, and through that, our sensuality. And so, of course, I've been very privileged to also be in the presence of non-venomous snakes. I'm aware it's very different when people live in countries where, there can be a real threat, in a sense of, yeah, when there are snakes that are non-venomous. This is my beloved Sid, and I've experienced through that connection really my own sensuality coming to the surface. And also, yeah, that transmission of connection is very, very special. They allow us to really drop into presence as well, because I mean, hardly anyone is indifferent about snakes. Sometimes people are scared, but even that, I really invite that in, because then there's energy, and we can inquire why that is. And of course, there has always been a connection between serpent and particular women's sexuality. At times, millennia ago, when sexuality and spirituality hadn't been separated. And so it's a really powerful time and path to explore snake medicine, because there is a reclamation, there's an invitation to reclaim both our own sexuality, as well as healing that split that's been created between sexuality and eros and spirit. And so if we come back to facilitation, space holding, attunement is often a word that's used. Attuning to the people we're with, the group we're holding, attuning to the energy around us in the room. And yeah, this is where I feel again, Serpent is an incredible teacher, because that's what they do. They attune. When we handle them, their energy mingles with ours. Sometimes I've seen people hold a snake and they become completely still, because that person also has that very quiet energy, and equally they attune to a level of nervousness or aliveness. And yeah, and as facilitators, it's really so important for us to cultivate this, yeah, what I want to call sensual awareness, so we can read, cues and respond with our gut and our intuition, and not only cognitively. And another invitation, of course, is for us to connect with the serpentine in the body. And for me, that's connects very much with our sense of flexibility and agility, which we need when we teach. So the serpent path of pleasure. How can we expand pleasure? I think one of the most powerful ways to experience more pleasure or more expanded pleasure, whether that's sensual pleasure, sexual pleasure, is to slow down. And for many of us, that's really challenging, because the more we slow down and breathe and bring attention, the more we feel. And of course, historically, might have been many reasons why we've been shut down. But in order to really expand pleasure, and through that also our life force energy, yeah, the invitation to slow down and notice and drop into presence is really powerful. And although some snakes can move very fast if they have to, a lot of being in presence with a snake is about slowing down. And so I'd love to invite you for a little exercise.
Okay.
Yeah, are you up
Yep.
for that?
Yep.
Cool. All right. So this is a little adaptation, or big adaptation, from Betty Martin's exercise on waking up the hands. And we're going to take it a bit further. So I invite you to be really comfy. Again, if you can lean back, that's great. And then you can hold your hands in front of you, maybe one hand holding the other for a moment. And I invite you to decide which of your hands will be the one that gives some touch and which one is the one that receives. And when you've made that decision, then I invite you to just concentrate on the giving hand or exploring hand for a moment. So for me right now it's the right hand. And I invite you to just begin to explore your other hand and do that really slowly. So explore the fingers, noticing the skin, the texture, the temperature. Really exploring as if you're meeting that hand for the very first time. And then you can go to the palm as well. Does that feel different? Including your wrist. And keep breathing. And then you might swap your attention. You can still keep the direction, but now put your attention to the receiving. So what does it feel like to receive that touch? You keep exploring. And then you can become freer with that, and but still keep exploring both hands. Maybe now the other hand wants to explore, caress. And then you can begin to add some quality that you would like. Maybe it's a quality of sensual, very light touch, awakening, soothing. And then I'd love you to imagine, if that feels something you want to play with, that your hands become like the head of a snake. So you just put your thumb to your little finger, and then maybe just still begin with one hand, but slowly imagining this is the head of a snake. Or maybe they both want to move at the same time. And so playing with this idea that these hands are becoming, just for a little while, the heads of serpents, and can continue to caress and journey. Maybe now you might want to include your wrists, your arms, even your shoulders. Maybe to begin to dance. Maybe it feels like they're gonna have an energy of their own, a journey they want to go onto. Maybe they want to caress your shoulder. Maybe they're very still. And just notice the qualities. And then slowly, slowly bring that to an end. And maybe stretch your hands again. How was that?
Yeah, that was great. It's like, yeah, it's like wandering into different paradigms that yeah.
I feel it's a beautiful way of waking that sensuality and connecting with the serpent inside us, because we have so many serpentine structures in our bodies, the spine, of course, the intestines, our blood vessels, our very DNA in each and every cell. So, but there's something about, our arms, I guess, being the part as well where we can have less flexibility. And yeah, what was the quality for you, if you want to share?
It felt very connected. It felt very grounded, and it sort of weighted today.
It felt grounded and
And weighted. It
weighted.
felt like a big snake. It
Ah,
was moving very slowly, so it was nice.
like
So
a
very,
boa
yeah,
anaconda.
that's a scenario, 100%. Very, yeah.
Cool. So, yeah. So the aspect of serpent that most people are really familiar with is that of shedding, of course, and regeneration. And so, I feel it's really relevant for us as space holders, facilitators, to, yeah, not hang on to identities that don't serve anymore, that we've outgrown or outlived, but yeah, to be brave and let go of those so we can, yeah, reinvent ourselves, reinvent the work, keep things fresh instead of, yeah, hanging on to identities, whether personal or professional. And as you know, snakes shed for growth when they've eaten or when they're still growing, but also for hygiene. And for me, that's always been a point that's really touched me, because I think psychic hygiene is so important for us, as space holders, to really look after our energy, to, yeah, make sure that we, yeah, come back to ourselves. And yeah, and yeah, in relation to pleasure and sexuality, I also feel shedding it's always been a huge part. Also, whenever I was teaching around sexuality, because there's so much weight we hold around conditioning, trauma, shame, and yeah, ways of relating to our bodies that are, yeah, that are not helpful, and that serpent can really encourage us to shed in this beautiful full way, as we see here. Because in a good shed, everything is released, and the new skin is tender but fresh. And like I shared, yeah, it's super important for us as facilitators, yeah, to let go of business models that don't serve, that we have outlived, um, and to trust that also our work evolves all the time, just like we in life move through cycles of death and renewal, and to trust that. And that leads me to the cyclicality and being aware of our rhythms, and how we change throughout our lives, but also throughout the months, throughout the year. And again, that relates to our sexuality and our libido, which is never linear, right? um, it can be affected by so many things, life events, cycles, hormones. And yeah, and so I feel also if we're business owners, solopreneurs, facilitators, it's can be really challenging to honor our rhythms and to go with times when we, have higher energy, but also really allowing space for rest, for slowing down, for dreaming, and yeah, for letting go. It's like me with the school, I wanted to launch in spring the Serpent Mystery School, and um, um, some events unfolded where I just couldn't. I felt the energy really wasn't there. I felt very depleted, and I needed to get back to this dreaming and gestation, and particular to live my own medicine, and to, yeah, to have that initiation, I want to say, myself. And so I think that's a really big teaching of the serpent. And yeah, rest and basking, they really model, snakes really model that we need to have periods of rest. Um, and of course, when it comes to pleasure, savoring is so critical, so crucial. But so often also in work and in pleasure, we just move on, right? Have an experience, or we have a peak experience or a great workshop, and then the next and the next. And so, yeah, as facilitators, can we really savor our work? Can we be with an achievement? Can we bask and then let that nourish us? Because I think part of depletion happens when, yeah, we keep going, but don't allow our own medicine and our own work to, yeah, keep nourishing us, and to rest in that. I kind of see that as a quite alive rest. It's not like the rest when the serpent goes, the snake goes into hibernation or goes into shedding. That's a very different energetic one. But when they bask, when they just, it feels like they're open, all their scales, their pores, and yeah, so I feel that's a really important energy to cultivate as facilitators and space holders. And then, yeah, embodying power, to really transmit teachings, to hold spaces, whether they're small or whether they're really big. We're really called to be in our power and embody that power. I held a embodied shedding ritual this weekend at Buddhafield Festival, and we had over 50 people in the room.
Amazing.
And at a liminal time between 8 and 10 o'clock at night.
Wow.
And it was like, okay, so, and it reminded me of that. Yeah, we can call upon the energy of the serpent. We work, especially as I work shamanically, we work with that. But it goes for everything. If we hold it, give a talk, or, yeah, show up in that interface, in that connection between us and the world. Yeah, and I love these images, again, because they show us also that connection between the serpent and the power from different cultures. This is from Nigeria, and here is the statue of Isis. yeah, who's been always connected with particular the the cobra, and just that I love that poise and strength. And this is another figurine from Minoan Crete. So yeah, so to hold and embody power, to be aware of power dynamics, and to cultivate Kraft, not Macht, I said here. So in German, we have two words, and one is, yeah, really power as in empowerment. It's Kraft, it's power. And Macht is the power over. And it's such an important distinction when we are space holders, to, yeah, cultivate our power, our Kraft, but not, yeah, hold power over or misuse power. And yeah, for me, Serpent so connects also with erotic sovereignty, and on drawing on this instinctual wisdom that the body holds.
Such a great picture, always.
Yeah, this is me really going with this. We could call it an archetype, although I feel this is the figurine from Minoan Crete, so 3000 BC.
Yeah, exactly.
And I believe she wasn't a snake goddess, but a priestess, and that there's a really unbroken lineage of particularly women who worked with the serpents in the temples of Greece, in really all over the world. And of course, in countries like India, we still got snake temples, also in Nigeria. And yeah, I was playing with that energy, this embodiment of, yeah, the snake priestessing. This is when I still had both my beloved snakes, Sid and Mist. So, what does it mean to embody power? Yeah, it's about confidence, how we hold ourselves, knowing our worth, being discerning, and holding boundaries. And snakes are brilliant at teaching us boundaries. It's been a very challenging area in my own life, from my own history, but learning and teaching snake medicine continuously, the teachings around boundaries are, yeah, I always look to the serpent. So if we think of the cobra, cobra rises to the eye level, opens the body, makes herself bigger. And this is not to strike or bite. This is always the last resource. But to just give that very embodied, confident stance. It's kind of unambiguous. It's very clear. And yeah, for us as guides and leaders, it's so important to know when to say yes, and also no to commitments, to protect our energy, and yeah, just to create strong containers.
Wow.
And then of course, when we think of archetypes that are connected with the serpent, Medusa, we can connect with as the, I want to say, the sacred no. And I think that energy is sometimes so important in our times now, particular as women and yeah, non-binary, genderqueer, trans folks, when we can't, take rights for granted, and that's yeah, that powerful serpentine energy that protects. So protection is also another aspect that the serpent's been connected with. Often they are found at temples, and yeah, when we're a space holder, we protect our space as well. I remember when I worked as an art therapist in mental health, and there were never ideal spaces. Sometimes I had to set up in a dining room or in this room, and I really went into this very, very protective place to keep the group safe, within the whole chaos on acute wards. And looking back, I feel like these were times I really had to embody this, yeah, almost this cobra energy, standing up to a consultant who just wanted to come in and disregarded. And I was like, no, this is precious. I protect my clients here for that time. Yeah, it's an interesting aspect, the serpent appearing sometimes in dreams, visions, journeys, um, with a bite, either biting us, as we can see that as a transference of power, or can be as a warning of, wake up. Um, this is an image of an initiation, a rite of passage I went through to awaken this energy of snake priestess. These are temporary piercings, and for me that had been a real aspect of awakening. And
Wow.
I've been using that as a rite of passage as well. With
What are they? They're just like hooks.
no, so they are hypodermic needles. So this,
It's like acupuncture,
yeah,
sort
so
of.
they're and they're placed, really safely with alcohol, and they're not staying in long.
No, I'm
But
asking to just literally just being, I've had piercings in the past and
mm,
just had a whole conversation. So it's
yeah,
interesting, yeah.
yeah, for me in my journey with conscious sexuality and kink, um, the needles are working with temporary piercings and these hypodermic needles.
Yeah, it's
I
interesting.
I always felt this was a really important part of my medicine that I carry, and I only do that in a ritual context. So really, when we need to move energy, and an energy of initiation, somebody wanting to step into, yeah, leaving something behind, stepping up in leadership, um, shifting a really deep pattern. And for me, it had a very, very strong connection with that idea of the snake bite as awakening. So, not bringing death, but bringing that wake up call. This life is precious. We have gifts to give in the world. um yeah, that's why I put it in there. because for me, it really had to do with my path and yeah, how I support others, but also how I've been supported and woken to this work.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So flexibility and agility, we talked about that already. I think it's really important for leadership. And then, of course, magnetism. So we, whether we like snakes or not, they very often mesmerize us, right? There's the people often know the Jungle Book and Ka in it, the snake that hypnotizes. But the truth is, they really have, just through their presence, a really, yeah, magnetic energy. And I was thinking, well, what makes a charismatic or magnetic or yeah, a good speaker, for instance, or a good person that can hold um, yeah, the attention and energy. And I think there's something around being really embodied, but also very present and alive. Um, and just this resting, so which is quite close for me to sovereignty. I know a lot of people started talking about sovereignty and what that means. For me, there's, yeah, a real connection here. So this focus on being and rather than doing.
Yeah.
You know, we're not overgiving, we're not hustling, we're not pushing, striving, but rather, yeah, kind of knowing not just our worth, but also our purpose, what we want to teach, why that is important, why we're passionate about it. And yeah, from that place of safety. Um, so there's an alignment there. And usually that takes some slowing down as well,
Yeah.
and some breath. And here comes the arrayos that you mentioned in the beginning.
Oh, wow.
So in ancient Egypt, it was the emblem of divine sovereignty, she who rises up, and yeah, very much connected with Isis and some of the pharaohs as well. And then, of course, when we think of the serpent path of pleasure, um, snakes are amazing. They can unhinge their jaws and take in prey that's much bigger than their head. And so, you know, I feel there's the invitation from the serpent, from snake, to really say, well, what is it that you desire? What is it that you want? You know, can we open ourselves to that? First of all, inside of us, can we acknowledge, yes, we have that appetite. We have that, whether that's erotic appetite or the appetite of, yeah, being out in the world, being seen, being known, whatever the appetite is, can we allow ourselves that? And yeah, it takes this opening our hearts. I think there's also a physical opening, because we're, yeah, we are embodied beings. Can we allow ourselves to be penetrated by life? Yeah, and the aspect of coiling and uncoiling, when to receive, when to protect, when to rest. It's a tree boa resting. I always felt there's a really strong connection between rope, when people have explored sensual rope play, or yeah, bondage, and rope, in particular when it's done in a very sensual way. And again, that awakening of the body, but also that sense of containment and support. When I handled my snakes, they curled around me, and it was that, that slight squeezing. There's that sense of, oh yeah, it they helped me to feel myself more, but also feeling that containment. And there were pythons, so there weren't boas that can really, really squeeze, and that aspect is quite connected, I feel, to what we can experience within sensual rope play, shibari, and always, of course, build on a relationship of trust.
Yeah.
This holding and being held. And again, that's such an important aspect for us as facilitators, to know, okay, I'm stepping up and holding space, but can I make sure I'm also held, and I can, yeah, let go and trust and surrender at other times. So it's this kind of balancing leadership with finding spaces. I mean, not everybody is into exploring shibari, but that sense we all need spaces where we can let go, where we can allow ourselves to be held, to feel somebody has our back, we get nourished. And then, yes, I mean, Serpent is for me an incredible teacher, symbol around transcending dualities and polarities. This is an obvious one around, Freud always connected the serpent with the phallus, but the moment the serpent opens the mouth, it looks like a vulva. And actually, we can't see the sex of a snake at all from the outside. So I ended up having a female and male snake given by a woman who has a sanctuary for 30 years, and she thought there were two males, which it was such a beautiful teaching, because, yeah, for me, there's really something about that transcending of genders as well, and serpent being I want to say a queer ally as well. And in general, serpent really holding paradox with the energies, being receptive and penetrating, flexible and agile, but also very focused. um yeah, soft and powerful. And
Yeah.
this is what we need to do, as facilitators. We need to be able to hold paradox, to be in the mystery sometimes as well, to not go in and fix, but to, yeah, be with what arises. So
Yeah.
yeah, this aspect of staying with, you know to really be with the emotions that might arise in a room, and yeah, for us to expand our nervous system capacity to hold to hold emotions, to hold complexity, to hold paradox. Snake has always been connected with creative life force energy. And yeah, creation, whether that's hands-on creation. This is a painting my friend Melissa Shimana, who will be also part of the House of the Ring Serpent Mystery School as one of the serpent stewards, holding the thread of creativity with me. And so often when I speak about snake medicine, people say, oh yeah, it's about Kundalini. And of course, Kundalini energy is a really important energy. So it's the life force energy that's at the base of our spine, and that can be wakened in many different ways. And it's our natural life force and sexual energy. I love working with that usually quite late in my programs so that we can really cultivate embodiment first, because I feel this needs a really strong container. And yes, but it is our alive energy, our life force energy, which again is, yeah, needed when we show up in the world and in our work. So I want to take a moment to stop here and yeah, any question you have before I share a bit more about the 3 months initiation of the Serpent Path of Pleasure and Eros as leadership. But yeah, any comments or questions?
No, that was great. I got a couple of things today. So obviously, being with you, some of it's work, but it really landed a couple of the parts, about holding, but having your own environment to be held and be soft and powerful. Melting of energies. It's so true. I mean, where do you find that? Where it's completely permissible and everybody's like, that's fantastic, soft and powerful, brilliant.
Well, that's the spaces we're going to cultivate, and we can't do this in isolation. That was also for me the big shift. I think what happened this year, like had I launched in March, it would have looked much different. And I realized this isn't something I'm gonna create myself on my own. This takes yeah, an inner temple of stewards who shape this with me. Because like you say, where there's so much conditioning, there's so much taboo around, so much how we ought to be as leaders, and so few spaces where we can really very honestly look at these gaps, that I mentioned in the beginning.
Because you spoke at the beginning about shame, and I was also thinking about environments and spaces, and it's so you also talked about how, particularly at this time, not taking queerness or, anything around sexuality for granted, as if it's 2026, everything's fine. So
Mm.
it's even darker in some ways.
Yeah.
And it just reminded me about the shame. It's like a leaden weight.
Mm.
So good for you. That's an extraordinary idea. Actually, I've just kind of got the whole
Mm.
temple, snake priestess, not goddess understanding. It's very,
Yeah.
very powerful.
It's a powerful distinction, isn't it? Because a
It,
goddess can be put in the past, but to
it's
stay,
like goddesses are like kings and queens, like
yes,
fashion hairdressers. That's what I got when I saw this again. It distances it from the
yeah.
actual embodiment. It's
And
always
I keep having this gesture. And I realized when I spoke with my friend Juliana Goldstone, who will be coming on board the Serpent Path of Pleasure. She's a fellow snake priestess and also a sexological body worker and a pleasure doula, as she calls herself. And we were sharing, and I kept doing this, and it was like, we are reaching back in time, but not to not to stay there, not to be there, but to really bring this knowledge into the
okay.
here and now and into the future.
So can I just gonna ask you something very quick for later? I don't know because we're towards the end anyway, but there are a couple of different little groups of women. I've got like literally two people here and a couple of people there. And I don't know how to introduce them to you. Do you know what I mean? But I need to get my charger, but I don't know, just very quick.
Sure.
Um,
I'm gonna
like if there's like
stop
an
recording.
intro, something,
I'm
I've
gonna
just thought of that now. Anyway, carry on. Sorry.
It's all right. um yeah, so I was saying this reaching back into this tradition that, I mean, we don't really know what went on in the temples, but we can access some of that through shamanic journeying, through dreaming, through remembering, and also increasingly through meeting others who, also have inklings of that. And but what that means nowadays, to be, what does that mean to be a modern snake priestess? I'm learning what that can mean, but in any given week, this week this meant moving between ceremony, personal ceremony, offering a ceremony to 50 people with a real which was a real opportunity for people to shed something really profound in community. This meant dealing with burst pipes, ruined carpets. Um,
Oh God.
my 98-year-old dad came out of hospital
Oh great.
with a lot of other challenges. And
Yeah.
it's this like navigating this.
Yeah.
And one question I kept asking myself this week is, how would a snake priestess or priestess hold this and be with this? And actually, this is what got me through um, these other challenges. And how how will snake support this? Because I don't know about you, but I do had a tendency, this collapse, when things pile
And
up, we can
yeah,
we can go into freeze. We know all about
yeah,
how nervous system work,
yeah.
but knowing doesn't always help us not to.
No, it's that.
And so it was this question saying, okay, so you know, how can a priestess deal with this? And yeah, and this is the sort of thing that I hope to bring, or I will bring
Fantastic.
in the mystery school,
Mm.
because I think that the time really is here. There's lots of mystery schools suddenly springing up, which is brilliant. And I have seen a lot where it's going just in that direction, you know? It's like very esoteric, or yeah.
Yeah, and you've got the whole
And
shebang. I know that you've got the whole temple,
thank
got
you.
all of the rooms, all of the rooms. The whole temple is there with the front door, and got it,
Yeah.
100% got it.
And so that's what I want for us. And
Because we hear so many complaints from women, but we don't have the antidote.
yes, and I feel we truly finding the antidotes together. So yes,
Yeah,
I'm stepping in and up as, the backbone of this temple
wonderful,
space,
beautiful,
and
beautiful.
I'm also bringing in people to hold this with me.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So can I share briefly about the
Please,
shape
yeah,
of it?
please,
So
yeah, sure.
So the beginning is the Serpent Path of Pleasure, which is a 3 months immersion. And people can come in to that just for the 3 months. And the doors are open for the 12 months Serpent Temple. And within that, there will be 3 programs. There's the Serpent Path of Pleasure. There is the Serpent Sanctuary for space holders who are going through times of transition. And then there's Embodying the Snake. And they run over a year. So quite spacious. Yeah, there's spaciousness within and also between the three. And then for those who come on the 12 months journey, they go through those, but they also go into what I call the inner temple, which is the golden mystery thread, I called it right now. And this is where we have 12 temple sessions throughout the year, probably 11 with one with 1 month's rest.
Yeah,
But here we're gonna explore the mystery teachings of the serpent, and additionally also the rose and the bee, which will bring another layer of medicine. What rose medicine will teach us, and the bee, through the collective. And Rose teaches a lot around, yeah, openness and embodiment, but equal, like the serpent, the importance of the thorn as well. And within that inner circle, we're really weaving these mystery teachings that I received and others received with the the themes that are so relevant for us as facilitators. So around money, around business, around, yeah, community. And so I see this very much as a mix of teaching and research, like a laboratory, where we really diving into the mystery. And again, this time my gesture would be this, to going into the mystery, but bringing them, grounding them. What does it mean, what we receive here? How does it
yeah,
help us to pay the bill? How does it help us, so we can really flourish? How does it support us being healthy? Um, yeah, so that's the structure. And as the founding members, as those who come in this year, I'm also offering a one-to-one rite of passage ceremony here in my temple space at the Hive in Saltine. So something we craft together. And if people can't come, they can do that online as well. And then there will be also for those who come on the 12 months, each season you'll have a one-to-one session with me. So you can really explore a particular thread more deeply. And there will be also a Serpent Oracle session. And yeah, so that's the architecture and the possibility of the mystery school. The Serpent Path of Pleasure we start on the 17th of September.
Okay.
Will be Thursdays from 6 to 8. And it won't be every week, so there are 8 sessions, and yeah, some integration sessions in the middle, in between. And then, like I mentioned, once a month will be the temple sessions. The Serpent Path of Pleasure is 1111, 1111. And when people come into the whole year program, at the moment, this is still 3,333. This will go up, but that's me really wanting to honor those who are here in the beginning, because I really feel we're building this temple together. And yeah, so always I do payment plans and work with people so that they can enter this. So yeah.
Fabulous. Well done. Me and my own.
Of course, I would love to have you on board.
Congratulations for your year and that. Brilliant.